Look at this feature of Hibernate. It's very interesting, and it's giving you a lot of support. So if you see this feature, really you will appreciate the Hibernate a lot. First is what? It's compatible with object-oriented programming model. What it mean? It supports object-oriented concept such as inheritance, polymorphism, composition, and abstraction. So through Hibernate you can achieve all these things. Next is the transparent persistence. Provides transparent persistence without bytecode processing. Therefore, any changes made to object associated with the transitions are automatically detected and propagated to the database, and that saves time spent in extra coding for the bytecode processing, right? Next, we are having object-oriented query language. Just now I explained to you that Hibernate is providing some query language, that is HQL, and query by example, query by criteria, right? And okay, so next is what? Plugin in support for IDE. So if you are using some IDE, let us say you are using Eclipse, you are using MyEclipse, you are using NetBeans, so the support is there, already plugin is there. So if you are going to implement Hibernates, it's very easy if you are using some IDE, because some capability had been added with the IDE. So it's very easy development for Hibernate with IDE. I'll tell you what are the steps you will use with IDE. I'll be using here my Eclipse. It is not free. You can go for 30 days trial. You can download the my Eclipse, and you can install. But if we talk about Eclipse and all, Eclipse NetBeans, it is free. You can install. You can work with that. It is almost same. A little activities and interactions and steps are different, but I'll explain you the differences and all. Next is the ID generator classes. So it provides unique key identifiers such as native identity, sequence, and increment to map POSO class with database table. So there's the auto number generation in our database, right? If we talk about Microsoft SQL Server, there's a concept of identity. If we talk about Oracle, there's a concept of sequence, right? If we talk about MySQL Server, there's a auto increment. So there are different kind of auto number generation for a different database server, and Hibernate is smart enough to understand that and supporting all these things. Next is the multi-level cache architecture. What it does, provides multi-level cache architecture for thread safety and continuous data access. So at every level there's a cache memory management. Lazy instantiation, like we are having loading instances and variables. I mean, you want to load the objects, you want to load the variables or resources whenever required in an application. Or in other words, I can say the application is not initialized by loading the entire mapping information at a startup. So when you need, you will get it, right? It's not like initially I am loading all the things and then working. So that's what lazy instantiations or initializations we can say. So what are the situations it is used? I can tell you when request processing spans through more than one session, then you need this lazy initialization. Okay. Next, integration with Java EE. I mean Java Enterprise Edition. So you can integrate your Java Enterprise application with Hibernate by using Java Transaction API. There's a JTA is there which help us to integrate this one. Okay, next is the managed as well as non-managed elements. What is that? Environment, sorry. If you're working with some container, you're using a servlet container or some EZB containers, so that is a managed environment. In that case, Hibernate will work. If it is not container based, if you're just making a some standalone application, I'm just writing one program where my employee details will store to my table, just normal application. So it is a non-managed environment. Okay, Hibernate is also here to give you support. Okay, that is what manage and non-manage. That's what the EZB2 is only supporting in the managed environment. I cannot use as a non-managed environment. But EZB3, where JPA has introduced, and JPA is providing you the non-managed environments accessibility also. Okay. Optimized performance. Ensure optimized performance of application due to excellent mapping facility provided by the Hibernate. So the mapping is very good. We'll see what are the mappings available here. And next we have to see that standards driven development. So it uses the standard development methodology by interacting with almost all popular framework or architecture. Okay, so it is interacting with the other framework, like let us you want to integrate with the struts, you want to integrate with the Spring, you can do that. It can be used with standalone Java application as well as Java EE application, as I said earlier. It also offers a EZB 3.0 style of programming using annotation. So it's very smart enough. Like in EZB 3, they have introduced the annotation based concept. And that's what EZB 3.2 support that. Okay. I hope you are understanding these all features carefully. Next, reliability and scalability delivers a highly scalable architecture. Really, Hibernate can be used in simple as mission critical application due to its scalability. Whatever the complexity, okay, Hibernate is fit for that. So it's very reliable. Next, that is the second last is a flexible object or relational mapping with simple API. So it supports a variety of mapping strategy other than XML mapping, such as one-to-one, one-to-many, or I can say many-to-many, right? It also supports some kind of association like bidirectional, unidirectional. I'll tell you what is this bidirectional and unidirectional later. And the last is widely supported databases. What it means that Hibernate can interact with the DB2, I mean DB2 which is from IBM, MySQL, Oracle, okay, and like there are Microsoft SQL Server, right? SQL Server. What else? I can take example of Sybase. So you can interact with this database server. Not only this, more than 20 database server is supported by the Hibernate. More than 20. So whoever the popular databases, it supports. So I hope you understood the features of Hibernate. It's a big support and huge support. And the most important Hibernate's feature is mapping from Java classes to database tables. So if we have any Java class, if we have any object, that object can directly map to the database table, right? I'll show you how it happens in my example. But there are some disadvantages of Hibernate that also we have to see. There's a steep learning curve. Since it is a framework, so you have to work in that manner. So due to technical complexity or ORM concept, because you have to understand very carefully, very in a mannered way, then only you can work with the Hibernate. Application support personal need to have a good understanding and knowledge of Hibernate. Then you can go for that. Managing of mapping become more and more complex and unmanageable when the database size keep increasing. So there's a little disadvantage. So that's not a problem. Next, as I said, there's another version of Hibernate, that is the latest one, is what? Hibernate 3.2. This 3.2 supports annotation based ORM mapping. So we are having some annotation like entity, table, ID, column. These are the annotation which we can use with our POSO class. And there's the entity manager API, Java persistent API, improved mapping. Okay, there's a filtering, allows filtering return data using filters. You need to define filter in a Hibernate mapping file inside, and there's a one tag for that, filter hyphen def. So you can use for this purpose. If you have a filter and all, just you can write here filter hyphen def. So this tag will help you to add that. Okay. Next is the dynamic class. Provides an alternative representation of the POSO based entity. It uses map to store the properties and their attributes. Okay. Next is the store procedure. Yeah. Earlier the store procedure was not supporting. As we know, the store procedure is the stored SQL having some statement. It's a compile state, pre-compile statement, right? So 3.2 is supporting that. Next, we can understand what is the lazy properties. What is that? Specify that the object of persistent classes populate only those properties of the POSO class for which a query is executed. Okay. So that property will only populate. In a POSO class, let us say there's a number of properties we are having. I just talk about, suppose, employee POSO class. It is having employee ID, employee name, salary and all. Okay. So if some properties is used in the query, okay, so that will get populated. Well,